All right, good, good, beautiful. So you take sand and fire and put it together and you have glass. And it turns into a liquid. Imagine the sand turns into a liquid and then you stick a pipe in there and gather it up like honey and bring it out and blow down there and you blow a shape that over the centuries glass blowers have learned to make it into an incredible array of forms. And I've been lucky enough to come along at the right time, at the right place, to be able to expand many of the forms that were made throughout this 2,000-year history. I was using just human breath going down into this miraculous material, blowing it up, pushing its limits, making it as thin as I could, getting it so hot that it would almost collapse and begin to move. So I was pushing the edge of thinness and collapsibility and making new forms. You know, the baskets did evolve into the sea forms, and the sea forms evolved into the Persians. But you know, a series like the Venetians will come in, which are totally different. You know, or the chandeliers, which came out of nowhere. It requires a totally different type of thinking. I mean, we're not talking about objects here. We're talking about 12 or 1,400 pieces of glass making one object. And really, what I've always been interested in is space. Even when I made the cylinders, the single object cylinder, or the macchias, my interest was always in space. So I was thinking not of the object itself, but how the object would look in a room. The chandeliers don't really relate to that evolution of the basket sea forms Persians, probably. So, you know, as an artist, I just make, I just work, things just come out. So it's not that you're constantly searching for something new. It's just that something new comes. My background comes from middle class, lower middle class. My parents didn't go to school, really. My father came out of the coal mines and became a meat cutter and then a union organizer. My mother was a housewife, and I was close to my brother, who was 6 years older than me, who unfortunately was killed in the Navy Air Force when I was 15 and in sophomore in high school. And then the next year, my father died of a heart attack when he was 52. And that left my mother and me. My mother really wanted me to go to college. I guess that was 1959. I took a course in weaving at the University of Puget Sound. Then in 1962, I started working with glass, fusing bits of glass, making little sculptures, making panels of glass, putting bits of glass in tapestries. One night I melted some stained glass because I had this little kiln because I was fusing the glass together. I put in a piece of iron pipe that I probably bought at the hardware store and blew a bubble. I had never seen glass blowing before, but there was a picture on the wall. I remember the picture clearly of a glass blower with his cheeks all puffed out like he's blowing a trumpet. So from that point on, I wanted to be a glass blower. And I really didn't have a background in art. It just sort of came natural to me. I was around a lot of artists when I went to graduate school, and they helped me. You know, I learned from other artists that, yeah, it wasn't that hard to make art. You just make what you want to do, and you just have to have the confidence to do it. I woke up one morning and said that I wanted to hang chandeliers over the canals of Venice. And then from that came the concept of working in different countries, making the chandeliers and taking them to Venice. The first country was Finland, the second was Ireland, the third was Mexico. It gave me an opportunity to build the chandeliers or make installations, and then right outside there were woods or rivers to work in. And I'd always worked outside to some degree, but since 1995, it's become a more important part of my work. You know, this project just sort of started off by Chihuly over Venice, chandeliers hanging in Venice. When you see it, you wonder kind of how we did this. But somehow we did it. And we started the idea, we went with the idea, and here we are with things going up. Everybody sees something different in a piece like this, and I like it that way. You know, no matter how young or how old, people can respond to color. They can find something in here that means something to them. At least a lot of people can. It was an extraordinary experience for me to be in Venice. It's still my favorite city. My second favorite city, and a very close second, is Jerusalem. So in the Citadel, I really wanted to take glass to its glorious height. You know, really make something special where the glass really spoke to the audience. I was overwhelmed, really. Could I take on the Citadel? Could I really put pieces in that could hold their own in this extraordinary structure? Initially, we weren't going to have as many pieces. They weren't going to be as large. But I wanted to be able to really, you know, get a grip on the Citadel so that when people came in, they could experience the exhibition and really feel the force and the magic and the joy of the glass to transform the visitor in some way if they were willing to be. You know, whatever happened in the Citadel, whatever we did, people wanted to see it. They came out to see it, and they came back to see it. And I think this exhibition probably proved it to me, how much art is needed in people's lives. If you look at the history of my drawings, you'll see that they started off in the late 70s working with graphite, charcoal, simple things, showing the glassblowers how to work. And then they got more complicated. And then the Venetians were actually I made drawings that really looked like the Venetians. And then I began to add some color, probably watercolors initially, and then liquid acrylics. And then I started painting with the container itself, just squirting the paint out. But I would always have sponges and brushes and mops and brooms around if I wanted to use other implements to draw with. The drawings were done, as my glass is done, very quickly, very fast. And the drawings got wilder and they got larger, definitely less related to the work itself. They became more abstract. This is important. Make them as big as we can. Bigger, the better. I don't know why I work so large. I very often push a series to its maximum size. I think sometimes I do it just to keep the glassblowers at the very edge of their technical ability, to keep the tension high, to make it exciting, to make it so that we don't know whether it's going to break or not break. If you know exactly what you're doing and you can make it every time, it's not going to be interesting. It has to have this tension if the pieces are going to be good. And so we constantly push ourselves, you know. I push them, they push me. I try to get them to go beyond what they can do. It's more interesting that way.